Hi everybody, it's me Jill and welcome to Jill Informed. Today we're going to recap the Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 8, Episode 2, Let Them Eat Cake. So the show opens and it is the next morning after that ill-fated birthday party. The ladies, of course, are still in Boca Raton, Siggy's town, because Siggy will not stop calling it my town. I wanted to introduce my friends to my town. You know, Siggy Flicker, the mayor of Boca Raton. So it sounds like everybody is supposed to meet up in the morning and go have a yoga lesson on the beach. And Margaret says she keeps trying to reach Siggy and Siggy's not answering. So it's just Teresa, Danielle, Melissa, and Margaret in the van ready to go in the morning. Margaret says, this feels awkward to me because I'm friends with Siggy. I just met these other ladies, but she's not returning my calls. So somebody says, well, should we wait for them? And they're like, no, let's just go. So before the van takes off, they're kind of chatting about the night before and that Siggy made way too big of a deal out of the throwing the cake thing. She probably did because let's face it, this is Siggy and Siggy has big reactions to everything. But somebody bought you a cake and you end up just throwing at each other. No, it isn't the worst thing in the world you could have done, but can't you at least admit that it was kind of rude? Anyway, they're hung up on the fact that Siggy was saying all these really bad things, which she was. She called them animals. She said she was more intelligent than everybody else, which is probably true. But you don't say that to your friends. Oh, then Margaret starts talking about how, yeah, she's so emotional and everybody's saying there's two sides of Siggy and I really don't like this Boca Raton Siggy. I prefer the New Jersey Siggy. They're talking about how she's, she cries at the drop of a hat. And so Margaret said, yeah, it's like there's Siggy and Soggy. Granted, it was kind of funny, like marginally funny the first time, Margaret. But Margaret tries to bring that gem back later. Apparently, Teresa is a certified yoga instructor now. So when she was in prison, she really got into yoga. I'm sorry, when she was away. When Teresa was away, she really got into yoga. So she's leading this yoga class on the beach. Danielle is also very into yoga. If you asked me who the two least Zen women are on this show, it would be Teresa and Danielle. At one point, they're like freestyling out there. I don't know if that, whatever you call it, I don't know. And Danielle picks up her legs by her toes. She's holding on to her toes and she does this giant spread eagle. And everybody's like, oh, Danielle, that's great. Oh yeah, she's really flexible. Oh God. Later she like pulls one leg behind her head and she's doing all this crazy stuff and Melissa says something like, that's why she was engaged 19 times. And Danielle's like, you got that right. Okay. I'm sorry. Nothing explains why a person is engaged 19 times. Except maybe a troubled childhood. I don't know. But they're all getting along and it's great. Meanwhile, Siggy and Dolores, who has decided to be Team Siggy, are sitting in a juice bar complaining about the other ladies. And how, she brought them all to Boca, which is her town. I brought them to my town, and they're embarrassing me. What about the night before when you went to your favorite restaurant and you were screeching at the top of your lungs in a full restaurant? Hi, everybody, I'm back. You embarrassed Melissa and Teresa that night. Double standard, Siggy. Double standard. For the ladies who are at the beach, after the yoga lesson, this man comes to them on the beach and he's got this beautiful wreath of white roses and there are note cards. And Margaret has arranged to have this memorial service that is sort of a recreation of one that she was at in Hawaii, and she said how beautiful it was. And it's pretty touching. I felt like it was a little bit awkward for this to be coming from Margaret, who is really Siggy's friends and has just met these people. I mean, it was sweet of her, and I do think her heart was in the right place. Later in the day, all 6 of them now, including Siggy and Dolores, are in a van riding to Siggy's friend's house. And nobody's really talking very much in the van. The tension's pretty thick. When they get to this friend's house, her name is Lori, outside the front door, Siggy tells them basically to please behave yourself here. This is my friend, and this is my town. Can you just please control yourselves? Because I didn't like the way you behaved last night at the restaurant. Okay, great way to start a day, Siggy. Telling them right outside the door. So there was nothing they could do. If she had said that with the second they got in the van, you know those ladies would have been like, forget it. I'm not going then. If you think I can't behave myself at your friend's house, then I'll stay here at the hotel. But no, she doesn't say a word until they get there and they're standing outside this woman's door. This house was major. It was stunning. They go out in the back to have a beautiful meal, and she's got this pool that looks like an ocean. I mean, it's just gorgeous, and of course tennis courts and everything else. So they're having lunch and it's pretty civil. Teresa thanks Lori for hosting them. Danielle brings up what a beautiful ceremony they had at the beach and that Margaret planned this memorial and how sweet it was and how, it was cathartic and how everyone had really appreciated it, and it was really quite a moment that they all had. Well, the look on Siggy's face. Daggers. So Siggy says to the confession cam, how dare you? I brought you into the group and you couldn't call to include me? Except, here's the thing. She did try calling you twice or maybe more, and you weren't answering because you didn't want to go to yoga because you were mad about the cake. You can't have it both ways, Siggy. So Margaret and Siggy and Dolores all go to have a tennis lesson with a tennis instructor, and Danielle, Melissa, and Teresa go to the pool to hang out by the pool, and Teresa is having a swimming lesson. It was kind of weird, I thought, but whatever. Siggy thought that was just a sign of how wonderful her friend is that she had hired a lifeguard to come because she knew that Teresa couldn't swim. Maybe Teresa doesn't want to learn how to swim right here and now. Can anyone really learn how to swim with one lesson? I thought that part was weird. Then Siggy pulls Lori aside to tell her what her friends did with the cake. Why'd you have to do that, Siggy? Her friend says, I don't even know people like that. And then Siggy to the confession cam. Oh, finally somebody understands my side of things. Your other friend Dolores was on your side, or did you forget that? Poor Dolores is out there on the front lines. Even as you speak, Siggy, she's there fighting with Margaret in your defense. So don't say nobody's on your side. That's not fair to Dolores. The only thing I will agree with about her being hurt and not being included, she and Dolores not being included in that memorial service, Margaret probably should have left a text telling her, hey, we're leaving, we're going to yoga, but I did plan this memorial service. I wanted it to be a surprise, but you guys should probably be there. As I guessed, the swimming lesson was stupid. It was just a way to show off that they thought this swim instructor was really hot and the ladies were all being silly, and the whole thing was stupid. Okay, so later that night, Siggy is having the ladies over to her place. This was funny to me, because when they walked into her friend Lori's, Siggy said, I wanted to show my friends my Boca Raton lifestyle. When we get to Siggy's place that night for dinner, that was not exactly your lifestyle, Siggy. I mean, it was perfectly lovely, but it just kind of looked like your average condo in Florida. So all the ladies arrive. This is so Siggy. They walk in the front hall. There is this giant wall display of photos of Siggy. All of Siggy. I mean, Siggy has children and a husband, and nope. It's all of Siggy. Good God, if I could have 1 ounce of that woman's self-esteem. It was all like done at a photo shoot, and it's like, oh, Okay, in one, she's like playing the guitar. It's hilarious, but it is so quintessential Siggy. And actually, that part of it was the old Siggy that I kind of love because she just cracks me up. So it starts off, all the ladies are a little bit awkward with each other because I think both camps are waiting for an apology from the other. You know, a little bit of awkward small talk. Then they all sit down at the table. And oh God, Siggy has hired somebody named Sexy Chef. And the dinner goes south pretty quickly. They're making small talk, and Siggy finally says, you know, this is silly. You guys aren't going to apologize for last night. And then, you know, she just broke open the floodgates and everyone starts yelling at each other on both sides. And Siggy doesn't think she did anything wrong. They tell her, you called us animals. I would never say that. And they're telling her all the things she said. And Siggy denies saying what could possibly be the best line of the season. Now I'm going to have to tell the restaurant we're from New Jersey. Siggy, girl, you got to own that. That's the best line ever. But no, she swears she would never say that. And it's just everything's getting ugly. Margaret pulls out the old soggy flicker thinking that's going to be funny. Wasn't that funny the first time, Margaret? Even less funny the second time. That just infuriated Siggy. So now Siggy's on fire. At one point she said, you know, if you want to act like trash, go right ahead. Apparently, just saying the word trash triggered some PTSD in Danielle because she wasn't even talking to Danielle, and Danielle's on the end of the table, but it was, whoa! That just woke her up, man. You do not call us trash. She's not trash, and she's not trash, and she's not trash. It was like this sort of reverse Oprah thing. She just went nuts. So Siggy's reply to that is, trashy, trashy, trashy. Siggy, you are the one who is so much more mature, intelligent, all that than your friends. You're not showing it tonight, girl. Melissa says to the confession cam, you do not call a Jersey girl trash. Mm-mm. And apparently you do not, because they just everybody's up and out of there, except Dolores. Nobody even had dinner yet, and Siggy says something about offering them a doggy bag, and Teresa says, I don't want your doggy bag, and the crab cakes were too salty. Oh, poor Sexy Chef. They're gone, and Siggy and Dolores are left alone, and that's how this episode ends. Please join me right back here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Time for the next recap of The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Subscribe if you haven't, give it a like if you did, and please comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.